Hello and welcome to Book It, the show where I tell you of the latest books to hit the stands and the ones that you must pick up and spend some time on. Curiosity may have killed the cat, but that alone will keep marketers alive in a competitive age like the one that we are living in. Harish Bhat, a Tata Group veteran with over 30 years of experience, has penned down his second book, The Curious Marketer, which is a collection of 50 essays. This is a must-read for all those people aspiring to head big marketing positions and leading MNCs around the world in the future. But one has to be a bit patient while reading this book. Don't expect a ready toolkit or immediate to-dos that you can implement in some of the marketing positions that you may already be holding. What the author does beautifully in this book, and it's a very easy-to-read book, is that he uses his own personal anecdotes and helps us to think structurally, ask the right questions with the objects that we have around us, and help us bridge the gap between what we already know and what we should know. But the essential feature of the book really is, if you were to ask me, is that you may go to an MBA school for a marketing degree. That may help you to a certain extent, but it cannot compensate or cannot be a substitute for the real life learnings that you can pick up by just being more observant. And finally, the author also introduces a very interesting concept of CQ, or curiosity quotient. He says oftentimes, we are fixated with notions of IQ and EQ, but for a marketing professional, CQ, or curiosity quotient, is absolutely essential. And he talks about 7 simple ways to actually increasing that quotient. I sat down with the author himself, Harish Bhat, to talk about his latest book. Have a look. Well, with me now is the author himself, Harish Bhat. Harish, thanks very much for joining us and many congratulations. I must tell you, it's an interesting read. It's very conversational. And what I like is the use of anecdotes to explain some of the hidden marketing tools that one can sort of acquire. The central thesis of your book is how important curiosity is. You've added another important ingredient that every marketer needs. Apart from IQ, EQ, you also need CQ, curiosity quotient. Talk to me a little about that.
So thanks, Ronojoy. Thank you for having me here on this show. And it's such a pleasure to speak about my new book, The Curious Marketer. Curiosity is so essential to the lives of marketers. Curiosity enables you to discover the world outside. Curiosity enables you to look at new ideas which are occurring outside the category that you are marketing or you're engaged in. Curiosity stimulates your intellect and makes you think anew. Out of curiosity have come some of the best marketing ideas in this world. I actually opened this book with an anecdote about Steve Jobs and how his curiosity about calligraphy, that's right, how his curiosity about calligraphy eventually resulted in him connecting the dots when he began designing the Apple Mac. And I'm sure the same love for curiosity for calligraphy and design found its way into the later Apple products, which have become iconic in our world today. On anecdotes and stories, here is what I have to say. The best corporate lessons come to you from stories or anecdotes. Stories and anecdotes are such a powerful way of telling your readers what useful lessons you can learn from history, from things that I have seen myself as an author. And therefore, in this entire book, I have used storytelling as an approach. You're so right on IQ, EQ, and curiosity. We have always known that IQ and EQ are important for managers. And for managers, in particular for marketers, curiosity quotient is so essential. If you're not curious, you will not discover the new things you need to know.
Right. You've been associated with the Tatas for now 30 years, Mr. Bhat. Is there a feeling when you speak with younger people who aspire to be in sort of head important marketing positions someday in the future, the curiosity quotient not being adequate enough? Are people becoming less and less curious, which in itself is counterintuitive? In a world where there's so much of information, people are getting less curious.
Oh, absolutely, Ronojoy. I completely agree with that. I think marketers need to be far more curious than they are today. And I actually see curiosity on the decline. In this age where we are wedded to our mobile telephones and where every second, we wish to check what comes on to our mobile, where we are completely addicted to the world of digital and technology, the simple curiosities of life, I think, are sometimes missing from the lives of marketers. And this book is actually meant to rejuvenate that interest in curiosity and tell marketers how important curiosity can be to your careers.
And you've given, what, 7 ways of trying to sort of, help you become more curious.
I've talked about 7 ways of becoming more curious in this book. I've talked about the need to meet new people, experience new things. I've talked about the need to be open to new ideas all the time. I've talked about the need to listen carefully, to listen carefully rather than speak too much. I've talked about the need to read all the time, because I think some of the best ideas come to us from the world outside. And I've talked about the need for marketers to be conscious that we do not know it all, because sometimes as we grow more senior as marketers or as managers, there is this impression that we know it all. And that's not good for your curiosity. Think of how curious we were as children. And I think preserving that childlike curiosity is so important for all managers, all leaders, and particularly for marketers.
Let me pick one point you said: listen more, talk less. And I think you've given a ratio, right? 1:10.
Yeah. So
okay, I thought that was interesting.
So I read this very interesting article in the Harvard Business Review, which I have quoted in my book. And what it says there is that an ideal listen to talk ratio is 10:1. If you listen for 10 times more than you speak, then you can really imbibe new ideas, and you can really maximize your curiosity quotient in terms of what you can pick up from the outside world. But so many of us are so fond of listening to our own voices. I don't know how many of us as marketers or managers manage that 10:1 listen to talk ratio. Yes, it's very, very important to listen, and not just to listen, but to listen carefully and to reflect on what you have listened. That's how I think your curiosity can play out fully in your own mind.
And talking about listening also, Harish, you've also introduced this notion of reverse mentoring, where people who may be in their 50s, for whom the digital age may have come by the time they were already in their 30s or thereabouts. So they need to now learn the real digital tools from people who might be in their early 20s, but because of, I don't know, the seniority baggage, or call it what you may, there is a tendency that you don't want to do that.
Yeah, Ronojoy. So it's very good that you raised that. 2 things here. One, I think as far as marketers are concerned, there are 3 very, very important skills that I think modern marketers need to equip themselves with. And I've called them the 3 Ds that marketers need to focus on. And those really are digital, data, and design. Digital is playing a huge role in our modern lives today. It's transforming the world of marketing. Data is transforming the lives of marketers. There's data from so many sources that marketers need to analyze and get on top of. They need to make the data dance in front of their eyes. And design, of course, is becoming increasingly important in the lives of every Indian today. We love being surrounded by well-designed objects, well-designed services, and you can see that happening in virtually every category.
Right.
So marketers need to equip themselves in all these 3. Now come to digital. As far as digital is concerned, I'm in my 50s now. I'm not a digital native. But my daughter, who is 23, is a digital native. There is so much I can learn from her. Young managers in my office who are in their 20s are digital natives. They've grown up in the world of digital. They know Instagram and Facebook and WhatsApp and Snapchat and all the secrets of the digital treasure trove much more than I do, and they're so fluent with it. We need to learn from them. And therefore, I think digital mentoring is very important. Every marketer in this country needs a reverse mentor. Who can talk to him about the digital world and who can talk to him about how to swim through the digital world very fluently. I think that's critical, and I think many more senior managers should be open to that idea. I wrote an article some time back where I called it a program in extreme reverse mentoring, or PERM. Every marketer has to PERM himself. Every manager has to PERM himself.
So every time a sales marketing head wants to take a meeting with his juniors, I think there has to be, the coin needs to be flipped, where he needs to be, sitting, and some of these youngsters need to stand up and tell him or her.
Absolutely, we need to be open to learning, and what a rich process that can be if we are willing to be reverse mentored by young managers in our organizations. And those young managers in the course of that reverse mentoring also learn a lot from people like ourselves. It can be a very rich two-way process. So I would strongly encourage everyone watching this show, particularly senior managers and marketers watching this show, to ask yourself, who is your reverse mentor going to be? And what are you going to learn from him or her?
You know, Harish, what I like is the fact that your book has also come out at a time when people are talking about marketing in a new way, especially in the context of the digital disruption. Today, many would say that brands have become very, very vulnerable as well. While the digital platform, of course, gives you reach, you're able to sort of connect with customers directly. But also look at the vulnerability of brands. I mean, the most recent example one can think of is what happened to Snapdeal. Their brand ambassador made some comments which were taken out of context, and then the backlash that Snapdeal had to face online became almost a case study. So in the digital age, do you agree with that there is an element of vulnerability with well-known brands?
So in the first instance, Ronojoy, I don't want to comment on a specific episode. I think each brand responds to circumstances that come upon it, and I respect the way that brands have responded to circumstances which have come upon them. Yes, I think brands are far more, susceptible to the digital world today. But let me also say that brands also have a lot more opportunities in the digital world today. As marketers, let's look at opportunities to leverage digital. We have to be far more agile in the digital world. Otherwise, we can get taken by surprise as marketers. But there are multiple ways of leveraging the digital world today and engaging your consumers, engaging opinion makers in the digital world, which is why marketers need to be on top of digital, which is why marketers need to be agile, which is why marketers need to proactively track data of what is happening on digital and decide how their brands need to respond to early signals that they are seeing on digital. So yes, you're absolutely right. Here is a fresh, bold, new world of digital. Brands have to get acclimatized to this world, but most importantly, brands have to understand and marketers have to understand how they will leverage this world.
Right.
That's why we spoke about digital being one of those 3 Ds that marketers should learn and soak themselves in. And that's why you so interestingly referred to reverse mentorship being the key. I'm sure some of our younger people and younger managers will find 10 more ways of responding to such situations than some of us who are very experienced can.
You know, you've also mentioned in your book that public trust in businesses is going down. In fact, Michael Porter, very well-known Harvard Business School professor, has said that public trust in businesses is actually at an all-time low. And you've also mentioned India in that. So what can, marketing, or how does brand corporate India reposition itself to once again, if not regain the trust of people fully, but at least, in terms of, at least improves its standing in the eyes of the average man?
2 answers there, Ronojoy. First, I think trust comes from the excellence of the products and services that we give our consumers. This is old-fashioned, but this is the truth. And marketers have to rededicate them to the art and science of providing consumers best-in-class products and services. Within the Tata Group, I like to think that that's what we dedicate ourselves to every day that we are in our offices. That is essential. Nothing will substitute for the excellence of products and services in creating trust in the minds of consumers, and we have to be very, very consistent in doing that. The second, corporations have to live in harmony with their communities. That's right. Corporations have to contribute to their communities. Corporations have to be seen as being good citizens, good corporate citizens in their respective countries and communities. And I think that's also very, very important to rebuilding public trust in brands. And once again in the Tata Group, I like to think that ever since the time our group was born, keeping the community center stage is something that we have held in very high esteem and at the core of what the Tata brand and the Tata Group stands for.
Hold that thought, Harish. On that note, let's slip into a break. Our conversation with Harish Bhat on Book It continues on the other side.